Thursday. The pots are clanging, and Kosta is in the kitchen. He's in our own studio this morning. Kosta is here for BC Fresh, part of the series we've been doing on Thursdays. Okay, Mr. Kosta, what have you prepared for us, sir?
Well, we also got some red cabbage, which I stewed yesterday. And, Philip, I had to add some pineapple to that just to get that feeling that we might get some Pineapple Express or something happening this time of the year. But the feeling is that we got a little bit of Hawaiian feel to it. It's got white wine in it. It's got a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and you stew it down for 2.5 hours, and that's what you get with the crab cake this morning. And that's BC Fresh.
Cakes with Acorn squash you brought in this morning.
Yes, sir.
You and I are kind of nutcases, and a couple of Sundays ago we drove out to a farm in Ladner, because I think what I've learned doing this series with the Loads of Chefs is that I think we have a mindset that come October, November, there's nothing left local. That's not true.
It's not. You're right. And there's a lot of good things and a lot of good farmers out there that are really paying attention to quality, freshness, and really looking after their farms. I mean, that was evident when we went there and we saw all this.
Listen, you're on the spot this morning. We've got the panel, the tasting panel. Amy Jane, Nafisa is still here, Jim Mullen, tucking into this Acorn Squash Dungeness crab cake. And I have to tell you, Kosta.
Yes, sir.
The previous chefs were our special invites. Well, you're our buddy.
Yeah.
So we were very polite with those guys. You might
I know. I'm worried about it this morning. I'm sweating, Philip. I'm sweating back here.
Nafisa, why don't you? What have you just tasted?
I've tried the red cabbage concoction, and you can really taste the pineapple, and it does remind me of Hawaii.
Jimmy Mullen?
I'm really ticked off, and you know why? Because Nafisa's in my seat, and usually I sit there because I'll be first in line to get seconds, you see.
Seconds? Oink, oink.
The crab cakes, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic, Mr. Kosta. You are the fishmonger. KostaTheFishmonger.com is your email address, your website. Let's talk about our passion for fish. Now, I know you've been in the business for a very, very long time. By the way, you can watch us all and watch Kosta in action if you go to cknw.com and watch the streaming video right now. Let's talk about our passion of seafood and fish. You are the maestro of bringing in fish that many, many other fishmongers won't or don't sell. It's called bycatch, for heaven's sakes. What a terrible word that is.
That's a dirty name.
I hate that word.
Yeah,
I really do.
Me too.
It's an insult to the fish itself.
Exactly. I agree.
But you'll bring in skate. You'll bring in various fish that if you look at it on the ice at your place, I hear people saying to you, "What is that? What is that?" How do we get people more adventurous with fish?
Well, the idea is to slowly conquer. Over the years that I've been there now for 25 years, I in the beginning when I was there, I had a hard time selling squid. And today, it's a big item. For example, whole fish. 10 years ago, you could only just dream that somebody would buy a whole fish, take it home. Now it's happening, Philip.
Yeah.
People are coming and they're actually buying whole fish.
You told me a great story the other day that I'm going to pass along. You said that you were interviewing for a new fish cutter in your store, and you said that a young Frenchman came by who had worked in fish stores in France, and he looked at your display, and he saw all the fillets that you'd cut up there and everything, and he turns to you and he says, "Kosta, why are you cutting up the fish?" Because in France, you go and you buy the whole fish. You don't have it. You don't go and buy a little slice of this stuff. And, you know, it doesn't. Over there, you eat the whole thing.
Philip, you're absolutely right, and I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and that's being sustainable, is eating the whole thing. If you can only imagine what we throw out, and the best part is actually the skeleton and the meat that's around the skeleton. That's like the dark meat of the chicken, if you know what I mean.
Guy, have you got any fishy questions for Mr. Kosta here? Mr. Mullen, this is your opportunity. There's nobody more fish than Mr. Kosta the fishmonger.
Well, when you spread out the species that you're talking about, does that make a more sustainable fishery? Because is there specific overfishing of certain species right now that are putting them in danger?
Well, the idea is that if we're eating the whole fish, then we don't have to throw, because when we get a whole snapper, okay, or rockfish as we call it, a BC rockfish, we're actually throwing 1/3 of the meat on the skeleton away. So if we eat that, then we need to collect less. And also we can get more money for the whole fish, meaning that the fisherman gets more money. So it's a win-win all around. Plus, you're getting recipes that, are just new and adventurous. We need to go into a new field of recipes. It can't be just a piece of snapper in a pan. It's got to be more like we got to learn how to make those chowders and soups with these fish. Because
are the food channels out there kind of pushing people towards using more of the fish?
You're absolutely right. It's happening, and that's helping a lot. It's a foodie generation. We are in a foodie generation, and people are learning. I'm getting a lot of young people coming in. Tell me what to do with that whole fish. I want to take it home. I want to cook the whole thing.
Do you detect that Kosta is passionate about fish? I mean,
He's passionate about fish. Yeah.
Kosta is with us for a couple more minutes. We're tucking into his Acorn squash dungeness crab cake. It is delicious.